So it's a very good afternoon to Johan West, who's joining us from beautiful Cape Town in South Africa. Johan, welcome to the show today. How are you?
No, good. Thank you very much, Mark. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. It's great to have you here. You're actually the first guest on the United Rugby Fans podcast show. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm honored. It's a real honor.
Well, I'm pleased it's you because you were the first man that put his hand up and said, hey, I want to be part of this. And I thought, well, it would only be right to have you as the first guest on the show. We're going to talk a lot about rugby today. We're going to talk a little bit about United Rugby Fans as well. So for everybody to get to know you a little bit, Johan, tell us your beginnings in rugby. Where did it all start from you? How young were you when you first got connected to the great game of rugby?
Yes, being the only child and to find ways to amuse myself, I actually, for some reason, stumbled onto rugby when I was quite young, at a young age. And of course, in South Africa, we only had television since I think 1976. So it was mainly on the radio and then later years on the television. And I can recall the 1976 tour, the All Black tour, or they called themselves the Cavaliers, coming to South Africa. And that was amazing. And of course, our Currie Cup games, all those, my mother being from the Free State. And that same year, 1976, the Free State won the first Currie Cup in many years, and that was a huge occasion. And then later years, we the 1981 tour to New Zealand, of course, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and watching everything and all the shenanigans on and off the field and the flower bombs, etc. That was fantastic memories, but of course also sad in a way. I can remember, I think it was the Waikato game that was cancelled, and was quite depressed sitting there in the cold in front of the television at 5 o'clock, from 4 o'clock actually, and just for a no show. So yeah, and there was many highlights later years. Obviously the 1995 World Cup. At being from Cape Town, I was at Newlands and watched Peter Hendricks' try on the winning the game against the Aussies. And also I sat almost literally at the spot where Jonah Lomo scored his try in the quarterfinal against England, where he ran over quite a few Englishmen. I think that was quite pleasing to see. I think the one was my cat. I can't remember.
It was.
And they scored a try right under, literally where I was sitting almost. Yeah, and over the years, of course, World Cup victories. 2007 was very special for me with my two boys. My youngest son was not very happy waiting up so late at night and yawning all the way. But yeah, those was wonderful times. And here I am today, still watching the rugby.
So did you play rugby at school? Was it a sport that you took up at school?
Yeah, I wasn't very good at it. I tried. I did play at school, and we I played lock and flanker, and then eventually we all had to go to the army to do our national service, and I ended up in a absolute godforsaken place called Rimfasmark. It's a very remote place in South Africa, and we it's the name comes from the Sand people.
Mm-hmm.
The rim is basically a rope, or call it a rope, and it Pasmark means tie. So the area is so remote and desolate, and there's no water and literally nothing, that even the Sun people that lived there or trekked through the area, they had to tie their ropes around their body because there's literally nothing there. So we did our national service there, and or our training rather. And so they said to us, look, who wants to play rugby? And of course, I immediately volunteered because it was either that or getting a telephone pole with your mate and run off in the sunset in the desert. So, so that was interesting. So I played a few games in the army, but that's basically that. So I'm just a big fan. I'm not a good rugby player.
Well, tell us, when you were a young boy playing at school, who were your idols within the South African team? Who did you look up to? I'm sure it was a lock or a loose forward, was it?
Yeah, there was many. In when I was at school, shortly after that, actually, the Western Province, then the Stormers, as it is now, they won the Currie Cup for 5 consecutive times, and that was a fantastic team. I mean, people with like Henny Becker and Hempis de Toy, the prop. He's a wine farmer here nearby. Those were the days, and of course Nasbotha, but I wasn't really a big Nasbotha fan because he's a bull, the Northern Transvaal Blue Bull, so we don't really like those people across the river. But but yeah, and of course Danny Gerber and quite a few others. That was the real icons of those days.
Well, I won't tell you. I won't tell you the story about how I used to go out the back fence onto the rugby field behind our home and kick the ball around and pretend to be Nas Bolter. Yeah, that was my early days. So it's good you didn't know me
Yeah.
back then, because you wouldn't have liked me mimicking him in the backyard. Yeah.
No, he was a great player, of course, fantastic
Yeah.
skills.
So, present day, we've got the Springboks doing very well now on the world stage. They had a very comfortable and exciting win against Japan yesterday at Wembley in London. What's your current thoughts about this Springbok team? Because you've seen many Springbok teams over the years. Is this one of the best teams you've seen of South Africa?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of comparison between the current team and the great All Black team of won the World Cups in 2011, 2015. But of course, uh, people don't really talk about it. But I mean, this team is actually evolving, and I mean, there's quite a few people, players that played in 2019 that's not there anymore, that played in 23 that's not there, and some are leaving us now. So it's an evolving team. Um, I mean, the win in New Zealand this year in Wellington, of course, was wonderful for us anyway. But it's difficult to say. I would say, hopefully, if they win the three-peat, one can regard them as probably the best team ever. But at the moment, it's still a learning curve. And then, of course, the other thing I was quite upset. Poor old Ox got injured. So it's interesting. I really hope that World Rugby would have at least this time give him the award for Player of the Year. But because now of the injury, I doubt if that's going to happen. But that's interesting. Yeah, that's it's like I said, it's a growing team. But surely, I mean, the people, the names, the Etzebets and Faf and Collard and Jesse. I mean, you can name all those guys. A lot of them were coming from 2015 already, where they just lost with 2 points against the All Blacks in the semi-final. So it's a generation of unbelievable players.
So there's a lot of people that are going to be listening to this show that are outside of South Africa and they're big rugby fans. They'd probably want to know, what impact has the success of this Springboks team had on rugby in South Africa? Can you share some of those stories with us about the impact, going right back, I guess, to the first World Cup and what's transpired since then in terms of the growth of the game in South Africa?
Hmm. You see, obviously there will be lots of opinions, and I'll give my opinion, but there might be a few hundred other opinions. But personally, I mean, I think rugby was, if it wasn't for rugby, South Africa probably wouldn't have been where it was today. It contributed so much to nation building, and the politics in South Africa is a difficult thing. And of course, in 1995 with Nelson Mandela, it brought everybody together. It was wonderful. There was a dancing in the streets, and people were jubilant all over. But yeah, then '96 we lost again the series against the All Blacks, and ugh, things went back to normal, and people sort of forgot about it. And there was a period actually where the Springbok emblem was very much politicized, and at one point even where there was talk of abandoning the Springbok emblem, and later on the period when the All Blacks were so good, especially after 2015 also, people were burning their Springbok jerseys. Hopefully it's something that will never happen again. But of course, Rassie did something, uh, uh, I've got no words to explain it. I mean, what he did for nation building in South Africa is unbelievable. I think people talk a lot about Rassie and say and give him credit for a lot of things, but really what he did for South Africa is unbelievable. And we are at a very good space now at the moment, and rugby has just been that bridge that we need, and that's what we want to try and do in the URF in South Africa as well, just to build bridges, and bring people together, and that would be wonderful.
We'll talk a lot about URF shortly, but I just wanted to get a better picture on what you've just been talking about in terms of the growth of the game, the passion for the game. It's happening across all levels of rugby, is it? Are we seeing it at schoolboy level? Are we seeing it in the women's game as well, with the recent Rugby World Cup and South Africa participating in that and doing well? But of course the professionalism isn't there at the moment for the South African women. How's all that looking at the moment in South Africa in terms of the growth of the game at schoolboy level and across the women's game?
I think it looks brighter than ever. Although I must say, look, the schoolboy rivalry has always been there for many, many years. And that's why that's a foundation for Springbok rugby, and that's why Springbok's always been able to do so well over the years. There's this constant feed of unbelievable players coming from the schools. But if you look at the rivalries between like Paul Gim, Paul Jim, and Boys High in Nepal, and Paul Roos, and Grey College in Bloemfontein, and others, Office, all those wonderful derbies. But personally, again, it's my own opinion, but I mean, I really try to sort of keep up to date with everything that happens in South Africa. And my personal opinion is that rugby at schoolboy level, at university, at club level, has never been so good as now. Obviously, everybody look up to their icons, 2 World Cups. There's a young generation of young players coming through now that doesn't really know about the struggles of the past, and all they know is this wonderful role models that was doing so well, and they just want to be better than them even. And I just see a fantastic and bright future for South African rugby. And of course, South Africa is more a soccer playing country. The majority of the people play soccer and prefer soccer. But even that has changed now. I mean, it's not what I'm saying. It's statistics that was verified is that more than 50% of the population, at least now, is rugby supporters. And yeah, so the game is growing. As far as the women's rugby has done unbelievably. Also, they've got a great coach, and also part of the structures that Rassie put in place when he was director of rugby. And that's definitely picking up momentum. And again, I think another 4 years' time, the next World Cup, they're going to be right up there.
So that's interesting to hear, because obviously when you grow so fast a product like rugby is growing in South Africa, it's very important that all the foundations of the system are in place to be able to handle that growth. Would you say that South African rugby have got the things required in place today to be able to handle the growth of the women's game, the schoolboy game obviously growing, and also the domestic game in general with the URC competition now, the Currie Cup? Are the processes in place to keep growing the game in South Africa?
Yeah, definitely. So I think what's great of the current era is that the guys are very professional on the field, but also off the field. And again, as I said, I think a lot of these things it's Rassie put in place, but it's not just him. There's a lot of people at SA Rugby that's doing great. And look, there's always room for improvement, and there's always um, new ideas. But again, I think under the systems they've got in place now, and the coaches coming up, even all over the referee structures, I think it's just going to be great for the future. I it's also a much bigger pool to choose from. People at club level and school level, schoolboy level, and the girls, I presume, that never even knew about rugby in the past or wasn't interested in rugby. They're all playing rugby now. So with a greater pool, there's much more development. There's much more structures getting in place. So I'm very positive about the future.
Well, listen, the Kiwi government's going to open up a new visa program to allow young kids from South Africa who play rugby to come over and settle in New Zealand, because we need some new stocks. But listen, you talk about the future of the game, and you're going to be first-hand involved in this, and you really are, because just 8 weeks ago I put out a video about United Rugby Fans and trying to change the world of rugby by creating a greater voice for fans of the game, and you were one of the first people to put their hands up and say, hey, I want to be part of this. So my first question about United Rugby Fans and your involvement is, why did you want to get particularly involved in this project?
Well, again, it was my my passion, and from young to be involved in rugby in somehow. And as I said, I was never a very good rugby player, but this is maybe a way where I can contribute to the sport. But also, I think the time is right for something like that, in not just in South Africa, in the whole world. I mean, there's, uh, at the end of the day, who's the important people in any sport? It's the fans. And if there's no fans, there's no supporters, and no supporters, no money. So I think the fans have been neglected in the past. I mean, the fans is always seen on television and in the awards, and paying very expensive rugby tickets all over the world, not just in South Africa. But when it comes to decision making, the fans are never in the picture. And there's a lot of things lately in world rugby that annoys fans or annoyed fans all over the world. And I think one will have to start somewhere, maybe to really have a voice worldwide to address that. Um, Rassie was in the dog box a few years ago with the Lions tour with his comments on the referee. But I mean, as of late, I've been watching rugby a lot, and um, my personal opinion is that the quality of the referees are very poor currently. This might sound very controversial, and people might have a different opinion, but I mean, we had some really good referees in the old days. But nowadays, with all the law changes, I understand it becomes increasingly difficult. But there's so many controversies on and off the field, and somehow all these things must be addressed. And you can't have an organization on top that just sort of turns a blind eye to all this, you know. So, and of course, it's difficult for the players and the officials to get involved because that's not really professional. So, I think the fans are the people that can drive this going forward.
Absolutely. And for people watching into the show today, just to let you know, there are 500 million rugby fans across the world today. They spend $8.5 billion a year on the game. And also, there's 133 rugby unions. So the platform is there. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of money, and there's a lot of will and passion within the fan base to really make a difference. And now, Johan is leading our chapter of United Rugby Fans in South Africa. We've got some exciting things planned that Johan's going to deliver with his team of volunteers and help us. Johan, why don't you tell us about where you're at the moment with United Rugby Fans in South Africa and a couple of the things that you've got planned for the next few months?
Yes, we first of all we want to try to be as legal as possible. So we are in the process of setting up a non-profit company in South Africa for the South African chapter, which is which will fall under our Companies Act here in South Africa. And we already have 3 volunteers plus myself that would be the directors of this non-profit. Once we have our legal locus standi, the next step will be to, of course, have our first meetings and really start planning for next year. Of course, next year is going to be great with the All Blacks touring, the Rivals tour in South Africa. So we're also planning a conference in Cape Town just before the first test in Cape Town next year. We will have yours truly and some other prominent speakers and podcasters from all over the world that would also attend and hopefully give us some talks. And yeah, our first goal would obviously be to increase our membership. Membership is free at this stage, but we're looking at funders for donors for building out the brand of the URF in South Africa. And yeah, we also in the process of setting up a meeting with SA Rugby to introduce ourselves, and that's basically where we are now at the moment.
Yeah, fantastic. So if you're watching into the show today and you are in South Africa, you can become part of United Rugby Fans South African chapter. I will put Johan's contact details in the video description of this video, and you can reach out to him by email and first of all, become a member. It's free. We're not charging anything for memberships, and once you're on our mailing list, we can keep you updated with everything that's going on in United Rugby Fans in South Africa. We've got this amazing conference coming up next year, which is going to be part of that huge Rivals tour between the Springboks and the All Blacks next year. So we're going to have a venue in Cape Town where you can come along and, as Johan just mentioned, listen to speakers talking about it, but more importantly, listen to fans, because it's the fans that are driving this organisation. It's not about us. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your ideas. We want to know how you want to change rugby. And this is another important part of what we're doing, Johan, isn't it? Because it's at a local level in South Africa, it's at a regional level across Africa, and it's at a global level. So people, fans from the game, can come and help us change the game across those different dimensions. You don't just have to worry about what's going on in your own backyard. You mentioned about refereeing. It's a big issue for people across the world of rugby at the moment. What can we do to improve the refereeing? And I think it's an important thing to say as well, Johan, here while we've got this opportunity, is we're not going in to fight and create a war with World Rugby and all the other unions across the world. We're here to collaborate. We're here to work together. We're here to put our heads together. It's the old saying, isn't it? More hands make lighter work. So we want to try and bring as many of those 500 million rugby fans from across the world, many of them in South Africa. We want to bring them to the decision-making table and say, listen, this is our idea. This is our solution to the current problem. we don't want to be a pain in the backside with what we're proposing. Have you got anything else to say to that, Johan?
No, I agree fully. I mean, one must look at solutions. We're not here to bemoan or to complain. One must look at solutions and go forward and just build out this wonderful sport of us.
So, talking about issues within the game, is there anything that you can share with us today that you foresee as a immediate issue within South Africa that United Rugby fans can get behind and start contributing towards? It could be things like facilities, infrastructure, funding for different parts of the game. What are some of the ideas that you've got?
Yeah, of course. To always the main objective would be to build out the game in the grassroots areas. Now, people in the past and SA Rugby and others and some NGOs did and are still doing fantastic work in this regard. But if you look at the vast distances in South Africa and towns, remote places where there's still so much scope for little towns to get proper sporting facilities and townships, areas people of from sort of backgrounds that doesn't have the financial means. There's for instance, the wonderful story from the Grootbos Foundation, the wonderful things that they just achieved in one town in Gansbaai in the Southern Cape. But I mean, South Africa is a huge country, and if we can duplicate things like that in other areas, it will just grow the game, and it will just so much help to relieve poverty, for nation building, and in general, just to give people hope.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, we're right behind you. I'm right behind you at a global level. So we're all going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to do the best we can to make a difference in the game. Now, I can't let you go today without talking a little bit more about rugby, because that's why we're all here. So why don't you share with the audience today, first of all, who's your favourite South African rugby player of all time?
Yeah, it's a very difficult question. The obvious answers would be somebody like Evan Etzebeth with all his, he's the most capped lock or player in South Africa, and there's quite a few. But I would say the one person, and funny enough, he's not a Western Cape or not a Stormer, but yeah, I think he was one of our greatest players. It's Fourie de Pre. That game when 2007 World Cup, where they beat the English 36-0. That was unbelievable, and it's a pity that at that time South African rugby went through a very difficult period. But it was a pity. If he played today, if we had Fourie de Pre as a scrum half today, I think nobody would have stopped the Springboks.
Okay.
So that's my personal choice. But there's so many to choose.
Yeah, there are. That's why I put you on the spot. So why don't we ask you this one then? Who's your favourite non-South African player of all time?
Again, very difficult question. I think, obviously, again, there's the obvious ones like Dan Carter and all these people, but somebody that made a huge impression to me, especially when I was still young, and I thought he did so much for the game, and I till this day, I think he was, to my mind, one of the best players, was Hugo Porta from Argentina. And that was also quite a shock to me. 1982, we were just came back from the tour from England, from New Zealand, and we played against I think they called themselves the Jaguars at the time, something like that. It wasn't the official Puma team, and we won the first one by a mile. I think about 50 points, and then Hugo Porter came back in the second test and they ripped us to shreds and won the second test against the Springboks, and that what made a big impression on me.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm a big Hugo Porter fan as well, and watched him a lot when I was a young boy. And I've actually reached out to him to try and get him on the show to come and have a chat to me about rugby. So let's hope that I can make that one happen, because it'll please a lot of people, I'm sure, listening to Hugo Porter talking about rugby, yeah?
Definitely.
Okay, well, I tell you what, Johan, we've come to the end of the show. That was fast. We could talk all day about rugby, of course, but for everybody watching, it's now time to officially introduce you again to Johan West. He's the chapter lead of United Rugby Fans in South Africa. He's based in Cape Town, but it doesn't matter where you are in South Africa. Johan will reach out to you and talk to you if you want to join our organisation, our not-for-profit organisation that's giving fans the voice across the rugby world to take on all the ideas, solutions and suggestions that you've got to make sure that we can keep our game strong, not only for now, but also more importantly into the future. So Johan is our man in South Africa. Johan, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today, but more importantly for standing up and being part of United Rugby Fans in South Africa. I'm personally very grateful for your presence in our team. It's great working with you, and I know that we're going to achieve a lot of amazing things together for rugby fans across the world.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Mark. It's an honor, and I'm the type of person, if I say I do something, then I do it well. So I will try my best, and I urge all people in South Africa, all the fans, please send me an email. I'll ask my assistant to help, because I think you're going to spam me now. But please do, and let's put you on the mailing list, and let's just grow the organisation in South Africa.
Thank you very much, Johan, and we'll speak again very soon. So there we go. That was the terrific Johan West from South Africa, from beautiful Cape Town. If you haven't been to Cape Town, get on over there. It's a fantastic place to visit. And go and watch some rugby in South Africa. Go on the Rivals tour next year with the All Blacks. That would be something fantastic to do. So there we go. United Rugby Fans podcast show is now up and running. This is not going to be about us, though. It's going to always be about rugby fans. So if you're out there as a rugby fan and you want to come on the show, drop me a note. I'd be happy to have you here. And in the future, we're also going to be using content that's been created by our rugby fans that will be put on this channel. So it's not going to be just talking heads all the time. We're going to bring you all sorts of exciting stuff from across the rugby world right here on United Rugby Fans YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe, hit the like button if you've enjoyed this interview with Johan. And if you're in South Africa, go and have a chat to him about how you can help us out in the beautiful Republic of South Africa. Okay, that's it for this particular show. My name is Mark. I'll be back again really soon with some more content. Until then, you keep safe, keep well, keep enjoying your rugby across the world. And it's time to say adios from beautiful Cancun in Mexico. Bye for now, everyone.